This is Beth Hayes, editor and assistant publisher of Sharon Quinn, author of several new books. She's going to talk to you about The Big If in Life, her first book.
Hello, and thank you, Beth. I appreciate that very much. Again, really appreciate you manning that camera, which wouldn't make it possible for us to get this message out in video format to all of our friends and the seekers of truth. I was writing the trilogy, the SELFGnosis trilogy. We had already come to the agreement to split it into a trilogy and not just one big, elongated 1,500-page manuscript. And as we were going through the final edits of this book, I woke up with the big if in life. I just sat down and started writing it. When I presented it to Beth, she saw it as being very useful. It was culled out of a much bigger picture, and it still gave a great synopsis of introducing people in a very lighthearted way to a very big paradigm. It made it a lot easier to pick up a little book that was only 120 some pages versus a 550 page book. And yet it would allow people to spark their holy curiosity that maybe there's another answer. And this book became The Big If in Life. Now you might say, what is the big if in life? Well, this book talks about our free will and gives us a very interesting way of viewing ourselves and who we are, and puts it into the framework of a virtual reality called the game of life. And so this game of life is talked about in a way where it's totally non-judgmental, but it allows you to explore the idea of what if this is the game of life. And it talks about how consciousness amnesia is an intoxication on the elixir of life. We're far more drunk on life. And being drunk, we have forgotten, oh my God, who we are. Because it does raise a very big question. How can we be an aspect of God, the Creator, and suffer any kind of amnesia? I mean, how is that kind of possible? We need a frame of reference and a context for understanding these things, and not just any old context, but the one that actually connects us with the truth. This book is like looking at a prime fraction. You know what prime fractions are? We take 1/2 and we can make it a million different looking fractions. Then one day you learn in school that a lot of those fractions, you can take a lot of them and reduce them to what we call their prime. And say, oh my God, these 100 fractions all actually say 1/2. All these say 1/3. And so then it's much easier to look at and simplifies a bigger picture when you can realize what is exactly the prime fractions. This book is like the prime fraction of the SELFGnosis trilogy. It culls out some of the most simple aspects of it and gives it to you a little bit in a very lighthearted way. And the chapters are short and easy to digest. I've already had some people who've read this book start, after a month or two, started saying, you know what? I am drunk on life. Wow, that is a far more powerful idea than I had even imagined. Because they start really looking at different various things and realize how easy it is to become intoxicated on the distractions and how they take you away. Now, another aspect of the title, The Biggest Purpose Ever Guiding You, is quite profound also, because that is taking you to the divine intention. We all want to know what our soul purpose is, but we don't seem to remember that soul purpose actually means divine intention for us. So when you're reading and coming into the SELFGnosis understanding and the paradigm, you begin to realize that you can free yourself from some of these very limiting ideas that most of the traditions and religions have shrouded our consciousness with and burdened us with. And depending on which religion you grew up with, some are very heavy and keep you filled with a lot of shame and guilt. Some of them put the burden on you that you're not one with God because you just can't affirm God clear enough in your head, on and on and on and on. And so when you read a book like this, you realize it's like, okay, here's all those paths, and here's a whole fresh new path. It just goes off in another direction and says, the biggest purpose ever guiding me is who I am and why I'm here. And if you could get clarity on that at the prime fraction level, well, you're going to be way ahead of just about everybody else on this planet right now. So, because the book is short and sweet and to the point, it's also a spiritual warm-up. It's a primer to the SELFGnosis trilogy, of which Preface to Your Eternity is the first book. Yeah, an easier, quick introduction to digest and fully prepares you to walk into this book. The fact that it's lighthearted is an important aspect of this little book. And in this book, you also begin to realize that the if is really our free will. If I choose to align with the divine intention, or do I stay aligned with ego, life intention? And you get clarity that there's basically only two things that you ever need to concern yourself with. Am I focused and aligned and harmonizing with the divine intention, that which is beyond life and has a holy resonance that beats with the heartbeat of our Creator? Or am I aligned with life and beating with the heartbeat that the ego has put onto my presence, being here? Which also means the presence is behind the veils and behind the ego, not the other way around. So this book I would suggest getting a little look at too. And also this book has a few diagrams in it to help illustrate some big ideas for you to really contemplate. So this can be gotten at Amazon in both Kindle and paperback. And it's time for us to know. Give yourself a chance to get some of that holy curiosity moving. It won't hurt you. It could never hurt you. But it may open up a whole new horizon and a whole new aspect from where you can go. And I think you're going to like the empowerment.